Strings. In programming, strings just mean text. Want to use JavaScript to change the text on a button in HTML? Write it as a string. Want to show the names of someone's friends in a friends list in HTML with JavaScript? Write that as a string too. You got a whole message that you want to send to a user's friend with JavaScript? That's going to be a string too. And JavaScript gives us some cool tools to help us do things to strings or even get information about one, like see how long it is. And just like we made our own custom functions, strings come with their own built-in functions to use. These are called methods, and they work the same way as any function we might make. Most of the time, they're used by saving any string in a variable and then writing a dot after it. So if we make a string and put it in any variable we want, we can do the same thing. For our simple example, we can imagine we're working with a comment on a social media app, and we can make it say, "Oh snap, this is wild." Let's start out by using one of the string methods that changes our string to uppercase letters. If we just type the name of this method after the dot, which is just two uppercase like this with parentheses at the end, this will give us back a new version of our string with all uppercase letters. So let's save this in a new variable that I'll just call uppercase comment. Then we'll log it out to the console to see it. And we see it's given us a new version of our string that's all uppercase. Now, we've been using this keyword let to make our variable like we've been doing so far, and this will let us change our string to anything we want in the future. This is great when we need to change what's in our variable to make something completely new. But there's another word that lets us make a variable in the exact same way, but the only difference is this new word keeps us from accidentally changing the variable to something completely new. This new word is called const, short for a constant. So before, we were able to update our comment variable, but if we change this to const and try to update it in the same way, it will tell us it's a constant variable now, so we can't change it once it's made. Usually for small programs like this, you won't have to worry about accidentally overwriting a variable you didn't mean to, but when your app gets bigger, it can happen. So people usually make variables using const and only switch it to let later if they need to update it. But otherwise, they work the exact same way. Another useful string method to know about is one called replace. It's just a way to replace some text with something else. And if we imagine we have a profanity filter for all of our messages in our app, this would be a good example to see how replace might be something we could use to replace any profanity with something else. Snap is definitely not a profanity, is not a profanity. Now, snap is definitely not profanity, but let's just pretend that it is. And we can write message.replace and inside the parentheses write two things as strings. Number one, the word we want to replace, snap. Then a comma to write the second thing. Let's replace it with 4 stars, like this. Now if we save it in a new variable that we can call filtered message and log it out, we see if the user ever writes a message that has the word snap anywhere in it, we are replacing it with 4 stars. Now the last string method we'll look at in this episode is the split method. This splits your string up into smaller parts, and we can take our message and split it at each space. Let's write message.split, and in the parentheses we'll write whatever we want to split it at as a string. We want to split it at each space, so we'll just write quotes with a space inside. And finally, we'll save it into a new variable that we can just call split message and log it out. Now we see the split method split our message up at each space and returned each part of our string separately in an array. I know it's not really clear yet how this last one might be used in a real project, but I thought it was important to just be exposed to it so we can see that there are ways of changing what's in any variable from something like a string to another data type like arrays, numbers, or objects if we need to, and methods can help us do that. There are a whole lot of other string methods out there, but learning them as you go is completely fine. Trying to memorize them all before you start making apps isn't practical at all anyway, and employers care about you being able to make apps, not list off things you can Google in a few seconds. So that's what we're working towards with these episodes. And if you want to support by allowing me the time to think of ways to help others feel less intimidated by tech, check out the Patreon link below. And as always, may the odds be ever in your favor, and the snacks be ever in your bag.